is a solo monkey show today. Dusty down at Ducks Media Day. We will check in with him later on today's show. Jeff Russ behind the glass.
Ciao, Belly.
Hello. Hope everybody has had a wonderful weekend. It's a dreary Monday.
Drizzly, wet.
Drizzly.
Yeah.
I walked in the building this morning and I looked like haggard hell because I went and decided I wanted to do a little Stairmaster workout this morning and really irritate the living hell out of my hips. And everybody in here kind of had the same look on their face that I felt in my body. A lot of this weekend kicked my butt, and I'm like, are we getting to the end of summer already? Was that what's happening? Have we?
Now we can't be.
We're not even. We're not in August
July,
yet,
yeah.
right? That's what I'm like. Are we that washed? Is that what we've come to now?
I think we're hitting back up in the 90s again later this week, aren't we?
Are we?
I believe so.
Ooh, that's quite nice. I'm old now, so I have to plan things. And when I was a kid, our thing in the summertime was we took the boat out. Like we went out like 40, 50 times a year. Like it was a lot. That was our thing. Like, you know, I was literally swimming as a kid before I could walk. Like that was the thing that we did. And we haven't taken it out yet this year. And we are going to go out on, was it Sunday? Which lets you know how broken and washed and old we are now, because we used to just go out at like 6 a.m. during the week and get out there. And let me tell you, this is, to anybody who's never done this, it's going to sound weird. There is nothing like getting on the water in the morning when the water is so smooth that when you're wakeboarding or skiing on it, it feels like you're like walking on cold butter.
Yeah.
It is the weirdest, coolest, most amazing feeling. I still have a picture from when I was a kid a buddy of mine took of me on a wakeboard, and I'm out in the flats, and the water is so calm that you can't tell which side is the right side up because of the reflection in the water. And it's still like my parents actually had it blown up and made into a poster when I was a kid, because it was so dumb, because the picture was taken with like a toss away camera.
Right.
And it's still like one of their like one of like those core memories. And I started thinking about that the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I should get up on a wakeboard again. Like, after 2 major hip surgeries, should I even try?
Is this a good idea?
To get up on a wakeboard again? Like, I don't, like, am I inner tube for life? Like, should I even get in the inner tube? My dad and my uncle used to have this thing. We had a jet boat. So I don't know if most people aren't too familiar with jet boats. They're super low to the water. The one we had was a 16.5-foot boat, which is very tiny. It had a 455 Olds. That's a 455 cubic inch Oldsmobile engine, which is massive. It has a metric crap ton of horsepower. Okay. This thing literally did 70 miles an hour on the water, which, if you don't think that's fast, buddy, you're not going to run into many boats that come anywhere close to doing that on the water nowadays. And they used to do this thing where they play a game called Who Can Kill Who the Fastest on an inner tube. That wasn't actually what they called it. That's just what we called it, because that's what they would attempt to do. So if you've ever been down the Willamette River in like down by like Newburgh and Oregon City, you'll see the barges that come through, right? And those barges, when they're fully loaded, are submerged like 12, 15 feet. So like they just churn this massive wake that's like 4.5, 5 feet tall. And so what my dad and uncle would do is, when the other one was on the inner tube, they would kind of spin it around in a circle, and then they'd get off the gas. So there would be like 20 feet of slack in the rope. And then once the wake was built up enough, haul ass across said 5-foot wake, snapping the rope as they got to the wake, and it would throw you like 15 feet in the air, which for them at that time, it's like they were 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
And now I'm 40 thinking about this like, oh, that's how that happened. They both, in 2 separate summers, broke each other's ribs.
Oh, geez.
So my uncle got flown out, like thrown in the air again, like 12, 15 feet. And like arms came up, did kind of a sideways belly flop with the life jacket up and exposed, and broke 3 ribs on the bottom.
Jeez.
Like, immediately like needed help to get into the boat. it was immediate like, oh no.
Oh boy.
My dad felt bad, but he was also like, yes. Like a subtle little fist bump, like, got him. But we get back to my parents' house, and he's like, I'm going to lay down. He lay down on the couch, and you could see his shirt come up a little bit, and it was black.
Ugh.
And he's like, they're like, oh my God, what's that? And he pulls his shirt up, and his whole right side, about the size of a basketball, is just black and blue. And
Oh,
it's like,
God.
oh, we better take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
There might be internal bleeding.
Jeez.
So he was basically useless for 3 weeks while that healed. The next year, we did basically the same thing, except for it was my uncle doing it to my father, and he broke 2 of my dad's ribs.
Ugh.
And that was really the end of that war.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that after they both kind of reciprocated the.
Even Steven.
It was like, okay, I broke yours, you broke mine.
Yeah.
Let's call it good. But
Man.
this is a long roundabout way of saying I'm thinking about getting on an inner tube, but also maybe I shouldn't.
Well, just, avoid the 5-foot wakes.
Yeah, it's my dad driving.
Yeah.
So he's probably gonna want to be like, let's see how we can torture him here. Have you ever done the insane tube, like where you like fly?
We did we did a little bit of inner tubing. My
Yeah.
dad, when I was a kid, he had what was it? It was a 20 or 22-foot jet pace,
Okay.
which most of the time he kept it down at the coast. So most of the time would be out like in the Halem Bay, and we'd be doing some crabbing and stuff.
There you
but
go.
yeah. But we get out there on the old tube every now and then.
We had one tube one time that I think it was called the High Flyer. Like it was made to like fly.
Yeah.
Like you swing it side to side, and when you hit the wake, it would it like has wings on it. It would kind of like hover in midair when the air got underneath it. And I remember those days, and I remember thinking, wow, we used to wreck like 15, 20 times a day
Mhm.
and be like, yeah, it's awesome. Let's go do it again. Now I
Yeah.
think about one.
Yeah.
How one of those wrecks would do me right now. I just
Yeah.
like,
It'd
no
be
boss.
ruined for a week.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. I'm not doing this anymore. So, if I come in next Monday, or if I'm not here Monday, that's what happened.
That's why.
So,
Gotcha.
did you Olympics hard this weekend?
A little bit. Just
Little
I mean,
bit?
yeah, I wouldn't say hard. It was a little. I Olympicked softly.
Just mildly.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you dive into any of the new ones?
No.
No, nothing.
No, not yet. I just kind of took it easy. I watched some movies.
I didn't watch any of the new ones. I did watch handball and immediately thought, if I spent time at this, I could be good at this. I'm like, this is lacrosse without the sticks kind of a situation.
Uh-huh.
Then I started thinking, there's a lot of jumping and falling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't do either of those particularly well
Right.
right now
Uh-huh.
or for quite some time now. But it's amazing how quickly you can watch this stuff and go, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could talk myself into that. Like the one that's easy for me is shooting.
I was gonna say, yeah, give somebody some time. And I'm not saying I could go be an Olympic level athlete at it or anything, but yeah, shooting or the archery.
Have you ever actually shot a bow and arrow?
No. Well, I mean, outside of like a Nerf one, no, or something with a suction cup on the end of it.
There was a spot in Tiger. I don't know if it's still there. Archers Afield.
Okay.
I did one of those like garden home summer things when I was in like 5th or 6th grade,
Mhm.
maybe 7th grade.
The old rec center there.
Yeah, well they have like those trips that they go do. The field trips, otherwise known as parents pay garden home rec center to take care of the children for a day or two.
Yes, exactly.
During the summer. And we went there one time, and I remember thinking, I'm so into this. Like I begged my parents to get me a bow and arrow, and they did. They got me a compound bow.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 70 pounds, 60 pounds, like,
Beefy.
a kid's compound bow. It's like a 120-pound compound bow. But I remember after using it for like a week, I hit myself in the forearm with the string so many times that it was like black and blue.
Yeah.
My parents were like, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And so they got rid of that, and they put me in some shooting lessons, which maybe an odd choice considering you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But much more controlled.
Well, I guess at least this way you
structural
learn how to do it
environment.
properly.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Like people will hear me or see me talk about firearms. I'm always going to be as crazy as I am and as outlandish as I can get here. I will always advocate for proper, controlled oversight.
Yeah.
of use of firearms, particularly for people who are not familiar with them.
Yes.
For the love of God, I have had more experience than 99.9% of the known world with firearms, and even I have had an accidental discharge in a house.
Mm-hmm.
What-
Oh, in a house.
Want to have fun with story time? So, for those who don't know, I have a conceal and carry, and I've had one since I was 18 years old. And I do the same thing every day. And when I come home, I check and clear, make sure, eject the magazine. Same thing every single time. Well, my original conceal and carry handgun, now no longer because of this issue, and it turned out to be an issue with said firearm.
Mm-hmm.
After ejecting the magazine, there was a hang up in one of the rounds, and it got stuck outside of the mag and just outside the chamber.
Uh-huh.
So when I went to clear, take the slide back,
Uh-huh.
it grabbed the round and threw it into the chamber.
Eesh.
And as the slide came down, it actually hit the primer and fired
Sweet.
in the house.
Cool.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Scared the living crap out of everyone.
I'm sure.
And I had a 40 caliber hole in my floor.
Yeah.
But again, where was the gun pointed?
Yeah. Down.
At the ground,
Yeah.
away from my body.
Right.
But I was like, there's no way in hell that just happened.
Yeah. Man.
But that's why they always you do what you do
Yep.
for that exact reason. So this is going everywhere, all over the place. On the Vancouver Fort text line, referencing the inner tube.
Yes.
I'm currently missing my 2 front teeth, and glasses are in the bottom of the Columbia River because of this exact thing.
Yeah. Whoops.
Why were you on the inner tube with glasses?
Right.
I'm gonna assume alcohol was involved here. We did have. I was in 7th grade. We did have a girl. Her and her friend were both on the inner tube together, and they both went up in the air. And she had braces.
Ooh.
She came down on the back of her friend's head,
Uh-huh.
ripped her braces embedded in both lips.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had that happen to me once when I was a kid. I took an accidental punch to the face, and yeah,
Oh.
my lip, the inside of my lip was stuck to the braces.
The braces in the bottom went through.
Yeesh.
And then the other girl had, because of the braces hit her in the head, had
Mhm.
to get stitches. And
Right.
I'm like, the impact of the braces went into her skull
Yeah. Yeah.
and through her lips.
Man.
Like 7th grade me was like, this is metal,
Yeah, that can't feel good.
right?
That cannot feel good.
I remember running into her years ago and thinking, "Oh, that scar healed fantastic."
Just checking out the back of her head.
No,
Or
no,
no,
the
the girl
lips.
with the braces.
Yeah,
There
the
we
one with the
go.
braces. I was like, that because that was a mess.
That could be pretty gnarly. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of pretty gnarly, I've been all over the place here. We
That's what
have
these opening segments are for.
Yeah, I know, right? Just squirrel away. Dusty is not here again because he is at Ducks Media Day. He will join us at 2:30-ish. I believe he'll be finishing up interviews at around 2:10.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I think it's shortly after that, around there. Yeah, when the player availabilities end.
So after that, he will join us forthwith to discuss the ups and downs of Ducks Media Day. It sounds like they're going to have like 10, 12 guys come through there. So it'll be we'll have some I'm sure plenty of Duck content for tomorrow out of that.
Yeah, it looks like player availability goes all the way up till 2:20.
So we'll get Dusty probably around 2 never.
Yeah, right.
As I put it up on the show sheet right now.
Well, they do have lunch scheduled for 2:30, so I'm pretty sure that most of the media members will not let that happen late.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if Preem's down there. He's got his barbecue going.
Right?
But in the meantime, we have got a ton of NFL camp news. Who has the most difficult schedule in the Big Ten, and how favorable it could be for the Oregon Ducks? And then we will dive into a host of Olympic coverage. But that's also where we're going to start. The Team USA basketball team handles Serbia, but not without controversy. We'll get to that and more coming up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. there was perhaps some worry, and I had some, about Team USA men's basketball going into the Olympics as, well, they played like crap. Maybe they were coasting, maybe they're still figuring some things out, but they absolutely rained threes down on Serbia. They win 110-84. What shouldn't be surprising is that LeBron James and Kevin Durant are still really good. Kevin Durant has 8 of 8, 5 of 5 from 8 of 8 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3 in the first half.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
In the first half. He missed one shot of the night, going 8 of 9 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Only 2 rebounds, no assists, but a man got buckets. The more probably surprising thing is the guy that is 3 months younger than me. Again, 3 months younger than me. LeBron James, finishing with 21 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, and a steal in 27 minutes. He was 9 of 13 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line. The difference in this game that has been different for Team USA was knocking down threes. They were not taking or making them at any level of clip that you would expect. For those that are unaware, the FIBA line is a bit closer. And why that matters. In high school, it's not a big deal. In college, it's not really a big deal. Why? Because the difference between those high school, college, and NBA lines is feet. Those feet, particularly above the break, push defenses out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet further. When you've got Steph Curry, the three-point line is further out, which means you need to worry about him further away. In FIBA, I believe the line is at 22 feet, whereas opposed to 25 in the NBA at the highest mark.
Right. Well, in 22, is that what it is in the corner in the NBA?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a tighter circle,
Yeah.
right? With that, it doesn't sound like that much. Go shoot it. Go shoot an NBA 3 above the break versus a FIBA 3. It's significantly different. You're like, oh, it's not that much. Like, yeah, it is. And what that does, in combination with no 3-second defensive rule, which means you can take your defender like Bam Adebayo, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, and park his big ass in the paint and never leave, it condenses the floor. So your ability to move the defense around and get open looks is more difficult. Interestingly enough, Team USA, even with that packed paint, is still getting to the rim with authority. Whether it's LeBron James, this is where the thing is.
Well, yeah, it helps when you have a Mack truck.
That's exactly it. It's the power game.
Yeah.
The power game shines in FIBA. And LeBron James, look, I'm trying to think of an acronym here. He gives hell. Okay? Okay? Just saying. To opponents and to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Short trip to Germany. Okay? You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at him. In the least bit. Anybody who thinks I'm being derogatory about that has never listened to me. I am a proponent of performance-enhancing drugs. What he is doing right now, no one in sports has ever done. Ever. Yeah. No one has ever been this good at this age.
Right.
Ever. At any sport.
Yeah.
None.
Nope.
And
even Kareem, who had the most unstoppable shot in the history of basketball.
It's not possible to do without assistance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why everybody's so afraid to talk about it. It's like Barry Bonds, like his head size, it's the size of a watermelon when it used to be the size of a cantaloupe. It's like, have you seen LeBron's head and shoulders? And I'm not talking the shampoo.
He's a big dude.
He's massive. Yeah. He's 39.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have that kind of muscle mass at that age, nor are you supposed to have that level of recovery. But just in spite of all of that, number one, I don't care.
Yeah.
Number two, what he is doing is otherworldly. He's putting his shoulder down and just saying, all right, let's go. And he's backpacking Team USA in a manner that's like, yes, the talent on this team is otherworldly. But it was basically LeBron James and Kevin Durant that just said, good luck trying to stop us. And this is a Serbian team that was like looked at as like a real threat to Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference in this game is the three-point line. Serbia was 9 of 37. I almost said Portland. USA was 18 of 32. 18 of 43 makes, 18 of them, almost half their makes were threes.
Jeez.
And that's what happens when Booker goes 4 of 5. Drew Holiday goes 3 of 5. Steph goes 3 of 7. KD goes 5 of 5. Ant Edwards goes 2 of 3. The only guys who took threes and didn't make them were Bam, Derek White, and Joel Embiid. Everybody else who took them made them.
Yeah.
And you start getting this level of dominance with the three ball that's hard to overcome. But this is also the same thing that could bite Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
Another team could get dumb hot. And that's, you know.
Well, yeah, you can't count on going out and shooting 55%.
No. And the thing is that the more important number here, I think, is 32, whereas Team USA's had like 14 attempts, and 16 attempts, and 20 attempts. Like they finally were like, all right, let's let that thing fly.
Yeah.
In spite of the dominance, where what matters here is that, and I love this, because normally at the end of the game like this, final 2 minutes, it's over. You know, you clear the bench, and the reserves come out on the floor. And, but no, your margin of victory matters.
Yes.
So what does Steve Kerr do? He keeps his dudes on the floor who have been cooking. The problem is neither Tyrese Halliburton nor Jason Tatum ever touched the floor.
Yeah. Well, okay. How many players on the roster?
13.
13. Because I heard this morning on Colin too,
14.
he had some Steve Kerr sound. And he said that, you know, in a 40-minute game, it's impossible to really play more than 10 guys.
It is, and they played 10. Because you also have to remember this, particularly with NBA players. All of these guys are stars. None of these guys are used to going out and going pedal down.
Right.
Where that's the adjustment for a lot of these guys. They feel their way into a game. Okay, how are opponents covering me here? How are opponents? The difference is, like, you can't just single out Steph Curry. You can't single out and build your coverage around LeBron James.
Right.
You've got to build your coverage around the best shooter in the history of basketball and Steph Curry, and the apex creator that is LeBron James. Oh, and by the way, Joel Embiid, there's maybe 2 human beings on the face of the planet who can physically handle him.
Yeah.
For all of the Embiid doesn't fit, and he's clogging it up and he's slowing things down. You know what he does? You have to double him. If you have to double Joel Embiid with Steph Curry and Devin Booker on the floor,
Kevin Durant,
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what the conundrum that they put teams in. This is all kind of, I guess, burying the lead in that. Have you seen the picture of Jason Tatum on the bench?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, buddy, it's I used it in the show promo. There is a picture of him on the bench, and he's visibly frustrated.
He doesn't look very happy there.
No, it's at the end of the game, and I can't imagine the ego hit that he took. Because as much as it's about sacrifice and self and this, that, and the other, he has now been unseated as the best player on his team, Finals MVP Jaylen Brown, to thinking, oh, I'm going to be a guy on Team USA, to not playing.
Yeah.
Look, everybody's mad at Steve Kerr. How can you be mad that he didn't play him over Kevin Durant, who was literally shooting perfect at halftime?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't play him over the best scorer in the history of the league. Oh, no. Boston fans are just twisted up. They're like, Derek White played more. And I'm like, Derek White's a guard. Drew Holiday played more. Drew Holiday's a guard.
Yep.
Like, well, you can still put him on the floor. I'm like, that's not... Okay, sure, you can put him on the floor and be like, Jason Tatum, go do Derek White stuff.
Right.
Does Jason Tatum want that?
No.
Hey, you're going to go stand in the corner and you're going to be the spacer. Does Team USA want that? It's like, maybe, probably not. The way that in talking to people around basketball is that there is a bit of a disconnect as it pertains to Tatum because of how Steve Kerr coaches. Kerr doesn't want the ball to stop. He's okay with the ball stopping with LeBron James because, 9 assists. And the pressure that he puts on the rim. Jason Tatum does not put that level of pressure on the rim. He does not put his head down and go to the rim at will every single possession whenever he wants. Jason Tatum stops the ball, and he doesn't get downhill. So it's a conflict of styles. And me personally, I don't care that Tatum didn't play. I also I don't have an axe to grind with Jason Tatum. He gets elevated to a level or a position that I don't think he should, and I think the last NBA Finals showed that. Fantastic player. He's
Yeah.
he's gonna go down with all these accolades, NBA champion. I don't think he'll ever win an MVP, and that's not a knock on him. Just it's not that.
It's a lot of
caliber.
dudes that don't win
Yeah,
MVPs.
most don't.
Yeah.
Staggering majority don't.
Only one guy a year does.
Yeah. Again, not knocks on him, but I do wonder if my favorite is the Celtics conspiracy theory is that Steve Kerr's doing this on purpose to drive division into the Celtics because Drew and Derek are playing and Jalen was left off the team and Jason's not playing.
Okay.
Tell me that's not a fantastic conspiracy though. It's pretty good.
Man.
It's pretty good. So, it's all a very interesting dynamic to watch it play because the management of stars and everything that kind of comes with that. It's like, let's kind of see what happens. Basketball coverage in the Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use your savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch. All right, we're going to pivot off of the Olympics. We'll come back. Don't worry. I have so many Olympics. But an interesting article came out in the who has the easiest path to a Big Ten title based on scheduling alone? We'll get to that and more coming up. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan. Fresh off a 3-game sweep of the White Sox in Chicago, the Mariners hit Boston for 3 with the Red Sox. 4:10 first pitch on Brute Sports. Logan Gilbert on the hill for Seattle, opposite Nick Pivetta for Boston. The Mariners just a percentage point behind the Astros for the American League West lead. And the MLB trade deadline approaching tomorrow afternoon. The M sent first baseman Ty France to the Reds in exchange for minor league catcher Andrew Salcedo. Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel and wide receiver Tez Johnson have been named to the Maxwell Award watch list given to the best player in college football. In the NFL, the Lions and left tackle Taylor Decker, who is Detroit's longest tenured player, have agreed to a 3-year, $60 million extension with $31.83 million guaranteed. And in Paris, the U.S. women's basketball team in action right now in Group C play against Japan. 4:18 left in the second quarter. The U.S. with a 34-27 lead, leading the way for Team USA, Asia Wilson with 10 points. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rush at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
talked about the opening show how everyone just kind of feels like crap, and I'm riding that struggle bus, but come in with a little Metal Monday. Makes my eyebrow uptick a little bit. I told Jeff Russ as we were coming in, can we just let the song play? Because it's a great weightlifting song when you let this one build.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. Are you a music guy when you worked out?
What about this physique makes you think that I am somebody that works out?
I said worked. Worked out.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Never.
no.
So I have multiple playlists, and this morning I was struggling to find which playlist was going to work for me. And I finally found a metal playlist that I was like, yeah, this is the one. And it was actually had this song on it.
Yeah.
And had some Korn on there. Like it was going back to my high school days for sure. I am very weird, and I wonder if I'm sure other people like this too. I mean, not as weird as me, but I get to certain points where like I have to like wait for the build so that it hits like right when I do my first rep,
Gotcha.
and then I can go.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if that's like some sort of OCDC, OCCD. Yeah.
You got music on the brain.
Yeah.
So could one say that Metal Monday is a useful tool for helping you feel
Hey, it is. If you ever get in the car with me, it will be very, very like 80% chance it's metal. And the 20% it's all hip hop. Like it's just. So if you ever see somebody driving in the road, you're like, I wonder if that's Meringue, and the windows are down because the windows are always down unless it's pouring rain, and you hear metal, it's me. It's just don't get it twisted. It is me. Speaking of, there's no transition out of this. The Big Ten schedule is one that did some folks a favor and did others not so much many favors. I think it's kind of an eye of the beholder situation.
Mm-hmm.
But CBS's Tom Fornelli, he put his Big Ten strength of schedule rankings up for all of the Big Ten. Basically, who has the hardest and least difficult paths to success in the Big Ten? Number one, I think it's pretty easy to say that UCLA's schedule is an absolute S show on every single level. They have road trips to both Hawaii and LSU. I don't think you will find a team that travels to two further destinations.
Yeah.
Like that's a 5-hour flight to the west and a 3.5-4 hour flight to the east.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
You've got essentially.
Well, then what happens? And then once they get into the Big Ten part of the schedule.
But I mean, just like you have a 9-hour difference between how far you go between just those two non-conference games. Like that's
a big.
Yuck.
Yeah.
They've also got a game against Fresno State, which is probably going to be
100 degrees.
Well, not just that, it's probably the best team in the Mountain West. Like Fresno State's always feisty. Like that.
I guess. Well, no. What are they at Fresno, or is it probably at?
No, that's at home. That one's
okay.
at home. So Fresno's at home.
So you don't have to worry about getting pelted with batteries.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, they could travel.
Yeah.
And then in their league play games, this is their road slate: Penn State, Nebraska, and Washington. So if you go Penn State to Hawaii, there is no other team that is coming close to that kind of travel. I mean, you could say that who's playing in Ireland this year? It's two teams that have nothing to do with Ireland. I
forget.
I remember thinking I think we said like Iowa State.
Let's see here. Pay new attention to a stalling for time.
That's that one international game that you're like
Dublin, Florida State and Georgia Tech.
Florida State, that's who it was. And Georgia Tech. Ah, yes, the strong Irish roots of Florida and Georgia.
Yeah.
But even then, like that's not nearly as far as going from, the West Coast to Ireland, which heaven forbid a team ever does that.
Right.
But you've got this UCLA schedule with, number one, they are in shambles. Their organization right now is just poor Deshaun Foster. I can't say I'm rooting for him because it's UCLA. Let's be honest here. I'm not going to do that. But like, it's kind of like your adopted kid brother, where you're just kind of like, come on, like get your S together, dude.
Right.
Like that's where I'm at with this. And like Deshaun Foster, I liked watching him in college. Ton of fun to watch in college. So I kind of want him to be successful, not too successful, just. Mildly successful.
Yeah.
But obviously he had
diet successful.
Yes, exactly. he had that interview that was a dumpster fire. they're not doing great on the recruiting trail. Dante Moore obviously leaves and goes to Oregon. They have the calimony, the money that they're giving up in state to figure that whole thing out.
Yeah.
And then you look at this schedule, and they are just going to get their teeth kicked in. And you're just sitting there going, ooh, that's tough. Number 2 on the list is Purdue. And anybody really cares because it's Purdue. Number 3, and this one hurts me, it's USC.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do, it's a slightly less, holy crap, schedule than UCLA. But you've got 2 non-conference games against LSU and Notre Dame. I don't think there's anybody in the country that has 2 more difficult non-conference games than LSU and Notre Dame.
Now, the LSU one, is that a neutral site?
Neutral in LA or in Las Vegas.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
LSU travels pretty hard.
Yeah.
I hope my guys travel well.
Well, come on.
Look,
LA
USC,
to Vegas, come on.
Look, we typically, despite our pretentious roots, we do usually travel well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well we'll travel there compared to LSU because boy do they travel.
Uh-huh.
But that's gonna be tough. They also play Michigan and Penn State. That is brutal.
Yes.
Absolutely brutal. Michigan finishes number 5 on here. They have the early season game with Texas and Michigan, which is going to be electric. That's probably going to be one of the best matchups of the season early on, for sure. They travel to Washington, which, while a rematch of the national title from 6 months ago, I think it'll be a little bit different considering there's about 30 players that are no longer on both teams combined.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Michigan put in 18. Washington lost their entire offense.
Yeah, you're basically looking at 2 new teams.
Think about that. 31 players are gone from those 2 teams.
Mm-hmm.
At least. Because
and both head coaches.
Holy crap. Have we ever seen a rematch with more turnover than that?
I'm not sure. I mean, nothing jumps to mind.
Good Lord. I mean, I know that Georgia team lost a crap ton, but good God, man. That's nuts. I'm trying to rack my brain off the top of my head of like a title rematch or a big-time bowl rematch that happened the next year. I can't think of a game that was... Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's, I mean, the Michigan schedule is kind of Washington's kind of middle of the pack. They do have USC at home in Washington, which again is why USC schedule is tough, is more travel. I wonder if they'll get out there with the sprinklers and get ready to test through the wet weather again. God, that was so embarrassing. And they do have road games at Oregon and at Penn State, obviously 2 of the toughest places in the country to play.
Mm-hmm.
Scrolling down through, Ohio State comes in at number 11. Number 11 in the Big Ten. Okay. Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall are their non-conference games. That's like a basketball non-con.
Yeah, right.
Like, let's tune up for the season.
Yeah.
That's some very much Nick Saban, Alabama scheduling.
I didn't know the Zips had a football team.
Right? Great uniform design, though.
Yeah.
Zips, we need more like unique names.
Mm-hmm.
I like those. And Marshall, still around. They do a Big Ten trip to Michigan State, and then they get Iowa at home. They're obviously their difficult road game at Oregon. If Ohio State wins that game, gonna be tough sledding for them to find a loss outside of Michigan.
Yeah.
They do have Nebraska at home, and they travel to Penn State. But that in between that, they have Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, which if they stumble there, that's their own fault. If you're wondering, if I'm down at 11, where the hell does Oregon fit in there? It's not 12, it's not 13, it's not 14, but 15th. 15th out of 18 teams, the Oregon Ducks schedule. And you're like, how can that be? They play Ohio State and Michigan because they play no one else. That's why. And it's like, well, they play Boise State. It's a tough non-con. You're right. It's a tough non-con.
It's not the same.
It's not.
As it used to be.
It's not Chris Peterson's Boise State. You better hope not, because Chris Peterson's Boise State came into Oregon and at Boise State and kicked your teeth in. So pray that that's not the case. And I don't think that's the case. But you've got Michigan State, Illinois, Maryland, and Washington, which Washington, while a rival, and then you're going to have those rivalry games. They are not the same deal, right? And
Right.
Oregon State is clearly not the same, even though that game's still happening in the earlier part of the season, which is
Yeah, that just feels weird.
weird. And yes, it's a road game, but it's a 25-minute bus ride. let's be honest here. It's nothing serious in that regard. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see how this shakes out. But Oregon got a very favorable schedule outside of those two massive games. And if Oregon takes care of business, the road sets up for them incredibly well to not only make the college football playoff, but get a bye. At worst, at absolute worst, they should be a home seed in the college football playoff. Barring, knocking on all the wood, barring any injuries, that should be the floor for them, is hosting a home playoff.
Well, and the hard part with Oregon, those two, is every year there's that one trip up game
That one, and you've got
that you don't see coming.
You've got Ohio State and Michigan. Those are the ones that you cannot falter anywhere else.
Right.
And you have no excuse to.
Yeah.
Look, everybody's like, does Dan Lanning have to overcome that hump of beating that team? Yes, and then they're going to beat Washington this year.
And when it happened, or not when, if it happens, if they go out and beat Washington this year, then you're going to have all the Husky fans and all the Oregon haters saying, well, but you didn't do it when it counted. You didn't do it when it mattered.
Yeah. But it will matter this year, because if they trip you up this year, they're not going to let you live it down.
Yeah.
Remember, Jed Fish his opening remarks at Big Ten Media Day was just a reminder: we've beat Oregon 3 times last year.
Yeah.
Or last 3 times, excuse me.
Yeah.
Twice last year. Just want to remind, hey, we're new to the conference. Those other guys over there, we beat them. Just a reminder. You can't let that be the game that trips you up. I mean, none of these games can trip you up. And you know what? That's actually where I want to go next. I am avid Duck hater. I'm softening on the Ducks. But why? It's that more coming up here on Danny Dusty today, the Fan.
That's one draft down.
It is me, avid duck hater. This is not a new
That
thing.
is you.
This is not a new thing either. This is something that's been baked into me since probably about 2001. You and I both went to Beaverton High School. We can both kind of attest to this. What colors did we wear at Beaverton?
Orange and black.
What was our logo?
The Beavers.
Did we steal it directly from Oregon State?
Pretty much.
Yes. Okay. And our rival was who?
Jesuit.
What colors were they?
Green and yellow.
Okay. Just, it's been baked in, okay? It's baked in. Not
Well,
only
remember
that,
back when I was there too, Jesuit was still only a boys' school.
yeah, it changed when I was in 7th or 8th grade.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Right after yeah.
The thing here is that I have a lot of friends now that are like, I was always a Duck fan. I've been a Duck fan since you've known me. And I'm like, no, you weren't. You were orange and black not only because of in high school, but because in 2001, Oregon State was the nationally ranked #1 team in the country. People rode that Beaver bandwagon pretty hard. I'm sorry, 2000. That orange and black it had some staying power, right? And although they fell short, I remember a lot of my friends wearing orange and black. Then there was the Joey Harrington era, and then there was those god-awful diamond plate jerseys, and then you had the Chip Kelly era with the blur offense. And I got sick and tired of New Money Duck fan talking about how great they were. And they were a good program. But they always just choked on it in the most hilarious fashion.
Yeah, there was.
And they couldn't embrace that, yeah, they were Clemsoning it just as bad as Clemson. There's something different about this Duck program, and it's Dan Lanning. I told Jeff this, like, I'm actually going to talk about this because I think I've always been somebody who says that I will always give credit when credit is due. This Duck program right now is in a spot where I think they have a legitimate chance to compete for a national title. Not like it was like, well, Jameis Winston, Florida State. They're like, no, man,
not like a one-off.
No, you didn't. You got there and you choked. That's what happened. This program, though, in the past it felt fake, and it felt forced, and it felt marketed. This feels real. They are strong in the trenches. The strongest they've probably ever been from a depth and projection standpoint. And I think so much of that has to do with Lanning. And yes, it started with Cristobal. But there's something about Lanning that even I, avid Duck hater, just can't do anything but just tip my hat and go, there's something real there. There's real juice there. There's something that you know it when you see it. You know what I mean? You're just like, yeah. Because with Mario Cristobal, it's like, it's not there. With Chip, it felt closer because it was so different.
Yeah.
But every coach since then, good God, are you kidding me?
Well, with Chip, it felt closer, but you knew that the teams still just looked different because Chip was more so about,
the speed.
The speed.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were losing in the trenches.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
that if you got physical with him, that's how you beat him.
Yep. And that's why they had a Stanford problem through most of Chip's tenure here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's actually a really good line to draw is this feels like those Harbaugh Stanford teams. That they're gonna be physical with you.
Yeah.
They're gonna win. Sure. Could they hang 40 on you? Like, is Dylan Gabriel a potential Heisman candidate? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't look at this team and go, this is the team that's going to hang 45, 48, 50 points on you and get into a shootout. I think they're going to put you in a phone booth and beat the hell out of you. You can talk about how much depth they have at wide receiver. It's like, yeah, but Evan Stewart's not, out there as Kenyon Barner split out. He's 6'5", 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference. Like, name a big-bodied wide receiver in the history of Oregon wide receivers.
I'll wait.
This is different.
Yeah.
And that's where, I just tip my cap and go, there's something about this team, the way they've recruited, how they've done it, how they've gone about building something real and sustainable. There you go, Duck fans. I said something nice about you. But in all seriousness, I do believe, and I think so much of this is about Lanning and what they have done. And again, we will have Dusty Hera, the other guy on this show. He is down at Duck Media Day right now doing interviews, and we will grab him at 2:30. Dan Lanning has already made some opening remarks, and I think he's supposed to sit down with Dusty for about 10, 15 minutes later this afternoon. And hopefully that will have already happened. Everything was already passed and done, and we can get Dusty's take on the day that was down at Duck Camp. But we're going to reset here in hour number 2 with some NFL minicamp news, the quarterback battles across the NFL that are happening. And again, tying back to the Oregon Ducks, where does Bo Nix sit with the Denver Broncos, as well as other rookies taken in the NFL draft? Come up here on Danny and Dusty today, the Fan.
New from Pelican Brewing Company and
Hour number 2 here on Danny and Dusty. We are Dustyless, at least for a little while longer. Dusty here down at Ducks Media Day. Jeff Russ behind the counter. We will have Dusty join us around 2:30 to close up today's show. Get some news, thoughts, sounds, all of the above from what I can only imagine is just a beautiful day at Autzen, because it never rains down there.
Nope.
Definitely not a swamp right now. I would imagine it's probably not great, but hopefully it's been clear enough for everything to go off without a hitch. Keeping in mind with the Ducks, Bo Nix drafted 12th overall by the Denver Broncos this past year. There is reporting out there from Dan Graziano of ESPN, national NFL writer, going through some of the camp quarterback battles. This involves obviously your rookies, where you've got Bo Nix in Denver, J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. No one in Las Vegas, because they don't have a rookie quarterback. Not that I'm frustrated about that at all. Drake May in New England, and Jaden Daniels in Washington. Let's start with the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. Reporting out of there, and this is just kind of push you kind of what kind of hell they're in. Everybody keeps talking about, well, Denver, Bo Nix, and Sean Payton, they're going to figure it out. Sure. This year? I don't think so. You can place Zach Wilson as a clear number 3 in this race right now, based on everything I've heard. This is from Dan Graziano. He obviously has high-end talent, and you could theoretically show enough in camp to move up, but he never really did that in 3 years with the Jets, and so far doesn't seem to have impressed anyone very much in Denver. Yikes, dog.
Yeesh.
Not great.
No.
When the quarterback bar is so low, you can just trip over it.
Yeah.
And you're not clearing the Jarrett Stidham bar. Good gravy.
Yeah. No bueno there, Zach.
Hey, shout out a number 2 overall pick, guaranteed money though. Man's never gonna have to work again.
Nope.
This leaves the competition between Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham. Stidham finished the year as the starter last year after they benched Russell Wilson, who was not good also. That's another quarterback battle we can talk about, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Good Lord. That reminds me, you ever see that? Do you ever watch Family Guy?
I was never a big Family Guy.
There's one where Smokey and the Bandit shows up, and Stewie kind of looks and says, good luck with that Sally Fields tale to Smokey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of how I feel with Justin Fields. It's kind of like, good luck with that. I think he yelled out something along the lines of like, hey, I don't like it either. And I think that's the situation the Steelers are in. Hey, I don't like it either. It's just Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. But as it pertains to the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix, the eventual conclusion that Graziano comes to, and I think this is probably true because it's Jared freaking Stidham.
Mm-hmm.
Nix is going to be Peyton's guy. When he takes hold, it's more about a matter of when, not if.
Mm-hmm.
Should he be out there at week 1? If he's got it, sure. Or remember speaking of Russell Wilson, when he was a rookie coming into Seahawks camp, they had just signed Matt Flynn with a 4-year, $40 million deal. If I remember right.
Oh, something like that.
Which is insane to think about now. It's like,
Yeah.
That's it? Slightly more than backup money. It's not that crazy. But Wilson was just dominant in camp. And it was oh, crap, this guy's good. And that was quick and easy. Now, there's been plenty of examples of where, you get a third halfway into the season, then the rookie takes over because you kind of want the training wheels on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as complicated as NFL offenses are, Sean Payton's is probably more complicated. Now,
Yeah.
Bo Nix is a smart guy. He's got a lot of experience. He's got the starting record or record for most starts in college football history, which is going to fall this year as long as Dylan Gabriel stays healthy. Again, knock on wood. So you think he'll eventually be able to pick it up relatively quickly. But, paces are all different for everybody. Eventually, it will be Bo Nix, though, in Denver. I would lean more towards him starting later in the season as opposed to right out of the gates because they don't have any freaking weapons. Like, I don't think you're going to do the kid any good throwing him out there to the Wolves where he's going to get hit. He doesn't have, I don't understand why everyone tries to reinvent the wheel with quarterbacks. We know what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Take time. Don't force them. Who cares what fans say and owners get impatient because you obviously the clip from Hard Knocks where you see the Giants owner talking about Saquon Barkley and basically saying jersey sales. It's like, you've got to have ownership that's not so short-sighted.
Yeah.
You can't, unless a guy is so clearly above everyone else that your locker room is going to turn sideways, because you can't do that in the NFL because they won't go to bat for the guy.
Right.
But if you cannot do that, you cannot throw that guy out there if he's not ready. And every year there's like, well, we drafted him, so we got to play him. And it's just, they're just sitting there going, oh my God, you're going to get this guy killed. It's like David Carr apparently wasn't enough of a martyr to have a lasting impact. You don't have weapons. You can't protect him. What are you learning? What are you learning about your quarterback? Well, Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never thought Fields was that good to begin with, but you never gave him a fighting chance either. So it was like, do you want to burn your draft pick, the guy who's your guy, or do you want to take care of him? It was like, well, you can't coddle him. He's got to play someday. Yeah, but does that matter this year? The answer is no.
Right.
Because nobody cares about what you do this year. I would lean more towards let him be 100% comfortable, and then, to be honest, let Jarrett Stidham take the butt kicking for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because that team's going to be a doormat.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep him from getting hit 25 to 30 times, is that not worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of the... If you had somebody that was not named Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson in that QB room, then I'd say, sure, yeah, go throw somebody else out there for a bit.
But they suck no matter what.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Even with Bo, like, oh, he's going to miss out on reps. I'm like, this is something I harp out with as it pertains to the NBA and the Blazers in particular. Bad reps are not good. Good reps are good. It was like the whole thing with Scoot Henderson. Play Scoot Henderson. I'm like, no. Beginning of the year, no. Bad reps are not helpful. It's the same thing in the NFL. Bad reps are not helpful. Like, oh, they're reps. It's like, no, getting your teeth kicked in is not healthy for you. We are not at the build character stage of professional sports.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I just kind of go, let's cut a little bit off this. Let's make sure that when he does get on the field, that we're doing our best to have things prepared and ready and an understanding of where things are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can satiate the owner of like, I drafted this guy 12th, play him, because that happens. Because look, the Walmart family bought the Denver Broncos. They're not just gonna be like, hey, yeah, no, this draft capital that we just used, sit it on the bench. Like, no, we want to make money. That's what they're in the business for. Pivoting again back to the Steelers, I think this is a really interesting battle because it's a battle for who sucks less between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And Dusty likes to go with Russell Wilson wasn't that bad for the Broncos. And I'm like, look, man, I know what the stats are. I watched him play. It wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Neither was Justin Fields. Like, I don't think you could find two quarterbacks in the NFL where I'm like, oh, God, I couldn't care less about either of these guys. And yet the Steelers, for whatever reason, were like, well, we'll go bar basement hunting and figure this thing out. I don't know which way I would go. I genuinely don't, because Wilson is getting to be washed, and Fields was never good to begin with.
I think this seems like a year for them where you see what you got, you see how much Russell Wilson still has left, and you see what maybe you can do with Fields.
Because they only have that 1 year. So they kind of have to make a decision, because it's really interesting because that division is so good. This Steelers team went 10-7 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who was at quarterback? Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they just find a way seemingly every year. And I know how much money they spend on the defense. I know how much money they spend on TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and everybody else. And it's just like, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is not good for anyone. And eventually Pittsburgh will get a quarterback. The stumbling into Ben Roethlisberger is still hilarious. They'll figure something out there. I just don't know what it's going to be. The case study, and we've kind of alluded to this a bunch over the last couple of weeks, is Minnesota. The whole idea of like, in the modern NFL, do you need a really good plus or great quarterback? Because if Sam Darnold wins that starting job, which it sounds very much like Sam Darnold will be the starting quarterback, and not in like the placeholder sense that Jarrett Stidham would be.
Right.
It sounds like this is going to be you're chilling over here, J.J. McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I still don't know why they made that pick. I mean, I know you have to have a quarterback. That one just kind of made me go, why not wait until next year?
Yeah.
If Sam Darnold's your guy, let's to be fair, the quarterback class next year, not great either. It's kind of weird. It's two classes in a row where, like, you had obviously Williams, May, and Daniels, which I think there's varying degrees of level there. But the next after that, like, I think Penix is okay as an NFL prospect. I think Nix is okay. McCarthy's easily the least I trust of any of the first round quarterbacks by a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah.
But next year's quarterback class is like Shedeur Sanders. I can't say it confidently.
Yeah.
You know? But you take this Vikings room and they have so many weapons, right? TJ Hawkinson when he comes back, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and you kind of go, okay, if Sam Darnold goes out there and Kirk Cousins this thing up, where it's like, oh no, like this looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely wonder how many teams go, we don't need to spend $50 million on a quarterback. Now, it's easy to say that when you have the first or second best wide receiver in the NFL and then other weapons that follow. Not everybody can replicate that. But if you can get just average or slightly above average quarterback play and all of a sudden have a good, competent defense and a bunch of offensive weapons, and that is a recipe for not just like, hey, we make the playoffs, but they make a legitimate run, I think you might start seeing a lot of copycats around the NFL. Because in theory, this is essentially what the 49ers did, is they took Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy and said, but what happens if we give him all the weapons in the world?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked incredible. And now I think Brock Purdy is better than just a plug-and-play guy. But also, when you took Deebo Samuel off the field, it showed.
Yeah.
And now you do that to any team, it's going to show. But it's not like they're missing options.
Right.
They had other guys they could work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this to be a very interesting project and prospect of, like, does this shape kind of the same way like you look at the NBA now of, like, is it better to have a bunch of bigs? We're seeing just teams shifting back towards so many more bigs in a big-centered offense that do you kind of see the same thing where it's more about weapons, so to speak, as long as you meet a certain threshold of quarterback play?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it will be interesting to see what Sam Darnold does up there if he wins the job when you've got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Because if all of a sudden he's putting up Kirk Cousins stats without being as irritated as Kirk Cousins,
yeah,
you start asking questions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have to pay $55 to $60 million to a quarterback, it's a pretty interesting spot to start at.
So then if he does go in and he does succeed, what do you do then with your, what pick was McCarthy?
12th. Oh, no.
12th.
10th.
10th?
Yeah.
So then what do you do with your number 10 overall pick? You can't have them both there, not for too long.
Well, you mean you have the cost control and you move on from Darnold and you go, as long as McCarthy's good enough.
I guess, yeah.
Because you would have the cost control longer at that point in time, unless Darnold's willing to take a deal well below market. But I imagine if he puts up Kirk Cousins numbers, you might want some Kirk money.
Right.
So it kind of solves your own riddle, so to speak. But I do think it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. Vancouver Ford text line, somebody said Geno with the Hawks, Geno Smith. And I think, they had that year where I think Dusty and I both picked him to win like 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah.
And then they ripped through the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's actually like a pretty good team.
Kind of came back down to earth.
They did.
Yeah.
But did they have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ
Well,
Hawkins?
no, of course. Well, they have DK Metcalf and
Tyler Lockett.
And Tyler Lockett
Which-
and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Now, yes.
Now, yeah.
So it's going to, like, there's a couple of different instances around the NFL. Like, I think we kind of know what Geno is. Like, I think he's a above average starter.
Yeah.
He's above replacement level. Not a
Right.
ton, but above average.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
he's being paid as such. They gave themselves wiggle room if things don't work out. You know what I mean? I think this is the year 2, I believe, of that deal, where after this, if they want, they can get out.
Yes, Geno got paid, but there's also certainly options. Also on the Vancouver Ford text line, I would be remiss if I did not mention the quarterbacks of the Steelers last year: Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett.
That's right. Little tiny hands, Kenny Pickett.
yeesh. It's just so difficult. And somebody, listen, I appreciate whoever this is sending this in, calling out to my little Raider heart. This is what the Raiders are attempting to do this year. Top 10 defensive playmakers on offense. Can a cheap quarterback keep them in games? I mean, look, I love the Gardner Minshew experience, which I think it needs to be a ride at like the NFL Hall of Fame. But him or Aiden O'Connell, I think that's different because Devontae Adams, DA is a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock Bowers has the potential to be very good, but now you're talking about like Hunter Renfrow, because there's a pretty steep drop off there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dusty and I played this game the other day. Name somebody not named Max Crosby on the Raiders defense. And he just looked at me and it looked like somebody gave him the stinkiest fart ever right in his face. Because he was like, there's a Jones out there at corner, right? It's like, who's Jack Jones? And I'm like, congratulations. They have the most nondescript defense you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
And they could end up being good for sure. But I think that as much as I love my Raiders, I think it's a ways off as it pertains to being competitive with quarterback play. Coming up next, keeping it on quarterbacks and money in general. Patrick Mahomes, underpaid now? Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Stop me if you heard this one before. The guy making over almost $500 million is underpaid.
Okay.
You haven't heard this one before because it's never happened.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year, $477 million contract in the summer of 2020. Does it feel like it was that long ago?
Man.
It
No.
was 4 years ago that he
Crazy.
signed that deal. He is almost halfway into that deal. It's kind of wild to think about. It's like, wait, what? It's one of the most lucrative in sports history. Now, it is not a 10-year, $700 million deal like Shohei Ohtani's,
Yeah.
with all of it deferred to the back end. God, that when that payment hits in like year 9, good God.
Well, for Patrick Mahomes to warrant that kind of money, he'd have to be both quarterback and like a dominant edge rusher.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him hold the edge against
know.
Trent Williams.
Maybe just a good old trucking safety back there,
Think about like what it would take to actually be a two-way player in today's NFL.
right?
Like you've had a couple guys who've like moonlighted
Yeah.
at that. Remember Troy Brown,
Mm-hmm.
safety,
Well, you had your Troy Woods,
Troy Woodson,
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson.
You're in my head, Werder.
Oh, yeah. Only for a couple years.
Yeah.
He did the. I don't think he ever played wide receiver. Maybe he
he
did
just
his rookie
returning?
year. He was return man his first couple years of the Raiders.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. But they also went like, hey, this is the best corner in football. We probably shouldn't have him back there doing that because if he gets hurt, we're screwed.
Right.
But you've now got Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, all making more money on an average per annum basis than Patrick Mahomes, which is insane to when you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes was asked if he felt underpaid. Nick Shook of NFL.com asked him, do you feel like you're underpaid? He said, not necessarily. I think we do a great job of managing my money, be able to pay me a lot of money and keep a good team around me. I know we've kind of restructured a couple times and got the cash flow up in certain spots in certain years. But it's about having a good dialogue, good communication with the front office and ownership, and we've done that here. And as we've been able to allow me to be a highly paid guy, while at the same time build a great team around me. Basically, that sounds to me a lot like, look, as long as we keep winning and as long as I'm making like God tier money, I don't have to be the highest paid guy. Like, as long as I'm up there,
Yeah.
I don't need to be the guy.
Well, but does any of this sound surprising coming from Patrick Mahomes, though, too?
No, because the longer he stays winning, the more money he makes off the field.
Yeah.
Look, Trent Dilfer, even though he's Super Bowl winning quarterback, not out here pitching head and shoulders. One, because the hair's gone. Two, because you're not in the limelight long enough.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco went out and won that Super Bowl. Then he got paid and said, F you, pay me.
Mm-hmm.
And did the Ravens come back? No, but he got paid. He's good to go. Did you see what Carmelo Anthony said about the Jalen Brunson deal?
No, I don't think
He
I
was
did.
just, he couldn't understand what Jalen Brunson was doing, which should come as absolutely no shock to anyone.
Yeah.
Because Carmelo Anthony forced his way to the Knicks off the Nuggets and cost himself actual assets so that he could get there and re-sign with the Knicks and maximize his earning potentials, while also giving the Nuggets Gallo and Wilson Chandler and other stuff. So selfishly, he's like, I can't figure this out. There is a world that exists where you don't take every single dollar on the table. Every agent will always tell you, do not leave a dollar on the table.
Well, I feel like it's not only agents, but players themselves and players associations.
Yes.
You know, the unions and stuff. Like I remember when I was a kid or in my teens, whatever. Yeah, they would get angry at somebody for taking less than the maximum they could.
Oh, the PA is not happy with Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
And Rick Brunson is on record as saying this, I believe it was to Tim McMahon of ESPN, of saying, number one, I played 9 years in the NBA without a single year being guaranteed. This is Rick Brunson, Jalen Brown's father.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson's father.
Yeah.
And that kind of imparted on Jalen Brunson. And so that when it came time and it came availability to be able to make this happen, it was more about securing the money right now, putting pen to paper, than waiting until next season and extending on what would have got him $36 million more. What in part that did, though, is that remember, Jalen Brunson went to the Knicks because his father and because of the relationship with the general manager, Leon Rose, who was his father's agent. Like this, it's family ties, right? It's not just the Nova Knicks and the Villanova guys all coming together. Like there's actual generational lineage within the organization. But with it, you got Brunson being different and saying, this is enough for me. And that allows the Knicks to be more flexible. OG Anunoby said, give me every brick.
Mm-hmm.
I want every last penny. And they could do that because they aren't paying Jalen Brunson. And they aren't paying, like other guys are willing to come together. And I am not somebody who wants to see billionaires bailed out by any way.
Right.
Pay the money. But there is a salary cap that you operate under. And as long as guys are getting paid and they're not, you can say, well, Patrick Mahomes isn't maximizing his value. You should be the highest paid player in the NFL. My argument is that when it comes due, does Patrick Mahomes feels like he's compensated fairly? And if he feels like he's compensated fairly, then roll with it.
Well, and who are we to tell him otherwise?
Yes. And again, he has a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
Worth $500 million.
Yeah. Crazy.
Like, I don't.
Yeah.
How can you get mad at that? I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. But I have to respect the living hell out of Patrick Mahomes. Like, well, in the counter to this is like, well, of course he can say no. Look how much money he's making. He still could take every penny on the table, and he's not.
Yeah.
And so, the lightest of golf claps.
The lightest of golf claps.
It's as much as I'm willing to give the Chiefs. But it is a very interesting issue or situation where you've got other quarterbacks, which, look, if you're Tua and you are one hard hit away from brain damage, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lock that money up and go figure that out. Because I don't think you're going to have the longevity of one Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Because I even if he doesn't get another concussion, I think he's going to take a couple of hits. And as a little guy, he's just not going to age well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only little quarterback who truly aged well was Drew Brees, and he's got generational arm talent in the sense of accuracy.
Yeah. Well, and he fell apart too.
So get your money while you can, I guess. Every instance is different. I just hate the whole, how you have to be one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Either you take every penny or you sacrifice for the teams. Like there's a medium that exists in between. And honestly, I wish more players in sports did that of like, hey, and I don't mean that as saying like setting aside money that they're due or earned, but
right.
more as this makes sense for us right now. This is a title window and I want to go win.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of thing that now, if we're not in a title window and somebody's going to get that money, give me my bread. Run the Bills. All right. That's kind of where I am with that. So, all right, coming up next year, it's our worst day on the web. Got two different ways to go with this. One of them is a plane returning to station again for biohazard. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys that you can put your trust into. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today, online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan, fresh off a 3-game sweep of the White Sox in Chicago, the Mariners hit Boston for 3 with the Red Sox. 4:10 first pitch on Root Sports. Logan Gilbert on the bump for Seattle. Nick Pivetta for Boston. The Major League Baseball trade deadline approaching tomorrow afternoon. The Mariners this morning sent first baseman Ty France to the Reds in exchange for minor league catcher Andrew Salcido. Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel and wide receiver Tez Johnson have been named to the Maxwell Award watch list. That's given to the best player in college football. The Lions and left tackle Taylor Decker, the Detroit's longest tenured player, have agreed to a 3-year, $60 million extension with $31.83 million guaranteed. And over in Paris, the U.S. women's basketball team beginning their quest for their 8th straight gold medal. Group C play against Japan right now. We're about 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Team USA leading Japan 96-68. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
This is a terrifying ordeal, of which we've covered in the past. A doo-doo so disruptive that the plane has to turn around, of which we have audio from the pilots.
To the doctor, and I talked to the crew, and it sounds like it's quite bad back there. It's still really bad. The crew is vomiting, and passengers all around are asking for masks, etc. And it sounds like I think 20-minute flight to Cleveland is probably the better option instead of going an hour and 40 to straight ahead to Boston. Especially with it kind of being a biohazard. I think we need to probably get this plane on the ground ASAP.
How bad does it have to be that people are throwing up?
Yeah. Yikes, dude.
Look, man, I know we're after lunch now, so like we should be okay. To all you late lunchers, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
Press
sorry.
pause and revisit this later
Yeah.
or wherever you get your podcast.
Exactly. But this is, we had this happen. Or was it last year that we had this happen?
Yeah, I think it was 2023. I saw that in the article.
Okay, so we had that happen where when we talked about it then, that he left a trail through the plane. This doesn't sound like it's like that.
Yeah,
This sounds like somebody might have just lost it.
And there's not really, at least on the. I Googled it and checked a couple of the different articles on there, but nowhere does it really get. You don't get any kind of an explanation of like what it was.
I'm pretty certain we know what happened. And
well, right, but yeah, I mean,
one person said who their partner was on the flight said it smelled horrible, and they used like the vanilla scented disinfectant that used to mask the odor, made it smell like vanilla scented bleep, and it wasn't puke.
Yeah.
So, look,
that's what they should have done. What the flight attendants did on my Vegas flight when somebody bombed the bathroom back there and just got out the bags of coffee grounds, because that helps neutralize the odor instead of just covering.
It takes the smell up.
Yes.
Look, we've all bombed a bathroom. Does it not matter if you're a woman and you're out there thinking, I've never farted, I don't poop? We all know. We're all married. We've all been there. Look, we've all bombed our significant other out of the bathroom. When you get out of there and they're waiting, they go in there. Oh God! That I have never, ever had one so egregious that people were puking.
It's so bad, dude.
Folks, the only time that has ever come close to happening, actually multiple situations, was when on my first deployment. For those that are unaware, when we have our crappers overseas, we don't have the honey dipper come and clean them out. We burn them out with diesel fuel. Okay? It is a bucket, like a trash can, like a 55-gallon trash can that is in the crapper, that they come out and they mix in diesel fuel and they stir it until it all burns off. And it's 108 degrees outside.
Ugh.
And you have a bunch of grown-ass men eating MREs and crappy military food while getting PTSD craps that get cooked in the sun for the week, then lit on fire and burned down. And even then, I didn't throw up. And I had that smell burned into my face.
Like if there's anything, a really bad deuce is bad enough, but then imagine that, then light it on fire.
Yes. Well, after letting it sit for a week
Jeez.
in the sun.
That's awful.
And it's not drying out. It's fermenting.
Coming out like magma.
Yeah. Okay? None of us are pooping normally over there, guys.
Oh, man.
They try to feed us so that we just like it stays solid, but no. There's none of that happens, okay? And even then, even then, I didn't throw up. So what the hell came out of this human being that was so egregious that crew members were throwing up?
Well, and what went into this human being that caused the problem? What did this person do to their body that, wow, it's mind-boggling.
I can't think how bad that could have been. I mean, you hear the pilot. Can we play the audio of the pilot again?
Yeah. Oh, hang on here. I got to get back to my page.
I mean, this is tremendous.
To the doctor, and I talked to the crew, and it sounds like it's quite bad back there. It's still really bad. The crew is vomiting, and passengers all around are asking for masks, etc. And it sounds like I think 20-minute flight to Cleveland is probably the better option instead of going an hour and 40 to straight ahead to Boston. Especially with it kind of being a biohazard. I think we need to probably get this plane on the ground ASAP.
This isn't one person. This isn't like, oh, Nancy back there struggling because she's a wuss.
Yeah.
The crew
The
are
flight crew.
vomiting, and the doctor is like freaking out.
The doctor's going, yo, we got to land this plane, man.
Like, did this guy's colon fall out?
There's one, the Vancouver Ford text line here. Was riding the MAX train home from a Beavers game when I was about 11 with my father, sister, and cousin. Let it loose on the MAX train. Had to waddle my way through Pioneer Square with shorts full. Made it to a Starbucks where I unloaded all the undergarments into the bathroom toilet. Had to get back on the train to ride to Gateway with stained shorts. Sister and cousins were gagging. People on the train were questioning what the smell was. It was brutal. Scarred me for life.
Somebody else texted in, Danny, I took a friend to a free clinic downtown and had to use a ravaged honey bucket nearby that hadn't been serviced to pee. I gagged several times while peeing. It was a white knuckle ride. Okay, again, imagine that, but sitting for literal weeks in 100-degree heat and then set on fire by diesel, cooked into a crap stew.
This one also on the Vancouver Ford text line. That's the kind of dump where you brush up on your life insurance policy.
Yes, because clearly an organ fell out. There's just no way.
So brutal.
Like, again, I understand like a really, really, really bad smell that's been sitting, stagnating, cooking in the sun. But to have it freshly come out of you be so bad and so egregious that in a closed environment, it is making multiple people vomit.
I think our Max Train texter is back in. Can confirm it was a combination of hot dog, dipping dots, cotton candy, and soda that'll put any crowd down.
Good Lord. They turned a whole ass plane of 100 people around and were like, no, man, we need this thing taken care of now.
Oh, boy.
I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
So, People Magazine spoke to a Miami-based flight attendant who's worked on a major airline for nearly 40 years about what happens during events like this. She shared that while she'd never been on a flight that's turned around due to a biohazard, her flights have made landings for medical emergencies after an on-call physician was consulted. She's worked on flights where passengers have vomited in their seats, and in those cases, airline staff are trained to use a biohazard fluid-controlled powder called Red Z that is poured over vomit to dissipate it. And also, people have had very bad accidents in an airplane lavatory, but in extreme cases, she would just lock off that bathroom. She said, the difference with what happened on the Delta flight was likely that the diarrhea, a trail of which could be seen on the floor of the cabin's eye on video, was everywhere. So that's what we had again. That's what it was. It happened again. Somebody crapped down the aisle.
Yikes. Ugh,
155 passengers and 6 crew members had to be diverted or returned to the airport.
Was that all? I thought I saw it was a bigger flight. I thought I saw that it was like a...
No, 737-800. So 155 passengers.
Yikes.
No one needed medical assistance upon arrival, though, including the person who crapped all over the plane.
Man,
My goodness.
this is brutal, dude. It's so
I just, goodness gracious.
Oh, poor Harley on the YouTube chat. I'm happy I just sat down with my lunch.
Look, I tried to,
We tried to warn.
I tried. I genuinely tried. I tried to be nice because I knew it was that time. I knew it was that time. All right, we're going to pivot out of this crappy situation and into some Dan Lanning audio who hopped on with Joel Klatt about what. You like that? You like that? I thought it was pretty good. Also, I'm watching Team USA women's volleyball, beach volleyball right now against Australia. And typically in this is a total score moment. I just have to call this out. You've got your one taller player who plays at the net, and you have like your libero or like setter in the back who's tiny. This is like mini me and a giant. They come up to each other like Carrie Walsh and Misty May. This is like she looks smaller than Misty May and she looks taller than Carrie Walsh. It's every time they come to high five, it looks like somebody hugging their little sister.
Just real quick, squirrel moment too. I had earlier this morning the women's volleyball was on in here, the indoor volleyball, and I didn't realize Karch Karai is the head coach.
Yes,
Yeah.
Olympic gold medal winning and probably the greatest volleyball player in the world all time. Which is why we kick butt at volleyball. Russians in it pretty good, but they can't compete anyways.
They did lose to China, by the way.
They love their volleyball.
5 sets.
Oof! Wow, went 5, huh? We'll probably find a way to talk about Chase Budinger today because what he's doing is insane, and we'll revisit why it's actually not that insane. But after a full squirrel there in that tease, Dan Lanning coming up next year on Danny and Dusty, Tinny the Fan. Dan Lanning, the head coach of the Oregon program, hopped on with Joel Klatt. And no talk of NIL, surprisingly, but he did hop on and discuss what makes Oregon great.
Crap, hang on a second here.
Maybe.
Hang on, I didn't have myself quite as ready as I thought I did.
That's what she said.
All right. All right, here we go.
Well, every place, like you said, has limitations. I think one of the harder things here in the Pacific Northwest is I can't go out and throw a football and hit players that can play for us. So we have to have, players that are courageous and brave. There's some guys that will win from the Pacific Northwest and in the state that can contribute, but we can't make an entire team from here. So we have to go, find the guys that are willing to get uncomfortable and maybe step away from their home to come here and be excellent and be great. But that's also part of what makes this place great. When you walk into the locker room, it's a melting pot of people, right? You'll have guys from the islands all the way to Miami, to the DMV, all across the United States that make this, a really special place. People come here to sign up for something that's different. They want to sign up for hard. They want to experience something that isn't easily attainable. And I think that's always one of the hardest things for a student athlete when they come in. Every one of these guys was the best player for their high school team. Yeah. Every one of these guys was the best player, where they're from. And you come here and you have a lot of the best players, and now competition ensues. But within that competition, still having the connection and the family piece that we're able to create here that I think makes it really special.
I think that's actually an interesting point. I genuinely do. In what is typically a hurdle for the Northwest in general, whether you're talking about college football or the NBA and the Trailblazers, or when Seattle had the Supersonics, and I think getting people to Seattle is also difficult, even to go to UW. In that, even though it's a big city, it is still geographically isolated. It's also very white. It's also cold, wet, and rainy. You can't rely on weather. You can't, even a big city like Seattle, you can't go with the big city things that you typically can, I think, in other places. But the way it sounds like Dan Lanning and Oregon have overcome that hurdle is by capitalizing on a weakness. In that, turning it into a melting pot has actually kind of encouraged their growth and their diversification, and how everyone shared trauma, as it were. To be blunt, this is a tactic that the military takes.
Mm-hmm.
I think people have heard me use this phrase before. It's called trauma bonding. It's a real thing. It's what happens. And what the military does is they throw you into a very traumatic situation, basic training, that shocks your system and gets the best out of you by getting you all to rally together. And now I don't know.
Or like in a fraternity, Hell Week.
Yes. I don't know if Oregon specifically targeted that or stumbled into it, or a combination of the two. But the way Dan Lanning is talking about it, it makes it sound like it's a bit of a focus. And honestly, I'd love to ask, go full truth serum and ask Dan Lanning and those at Oregon if that is something that was targeted, because it does make sense when you take the best of the best from wherever they're from, there's a sliding scale. The best of the best from Oregon and Washington is not going to match up against the best of the best from Florida or Texas or California.
No. And
so you have this in earnest battle or competition that brings people together, because you're bonding over the fact that the weather sucks, and that you're in a small town and you don't have as much to do, or that you're far away from home. Whatever those little things are that you can find that you bond in, you expand on those. And again, this is from my own experiences in literal wartime. Those things matter. And those bonds that you form, now obviously the difference between the bonds of combat versus the bonds of college football, I don't like making the war analogies because it is a little weird, but as somebody who played sports and was relatively good at them and went through the military, I feel like I can speak on those things and say that, yeah, there are some parallels. Obviously there's sliding scales of the two, but I do wonder if that is something that factors into how they go about how they build. Now, it's not like the pillar of which they build upon, but it is an effective method, particularly when you're talking about bringing people together. Now, is that necessarily a good idea in the long haul to create mildly traumatic experiences for people to bond over? I think people have varying opinions on that, but I think it does matter. So I just thought that was a really interesting piece of audio from Dan Lanning with the Joel Klatt podcast. So, in hour number 2, hour number 3, we are going to reset. We talked to Pete Thamel about the changes in college football, and they get Ross Dellinger's article that released on Friday that kind of highlighted where the house is at. Football. But there is a massive, massive, massive indicator of change out there for college basketball, and one conference could stand to benefit more than literally any other in the country. We'll get to that and more coming up here in hour number 3 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Hour number 3 here on Danny and Dusty. Dusty down at Ducks Media Day. Jeff Russ behind the glass, pushing the buttons, pushing my buttons.
Yikes.
Whether you're listening on 10:8 a.m., The Fan. Meow. Meow. Everybody who's watching on YouTube right now, thoroughly disgusted by the face that I just made. And you too can watch along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan. If you were listening earlier, I was really marveling at the size disparity in one of the Team USA's women's volleyball teams.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some internet sleuthing. Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss both played together in college. I was like, I wonder how tall the shorter one, Kristen Nuss, I was like, she looks like she's like 5'2". Well, it turns out she's 5'6".
Uh-huh.
Her partner, Taryn Cloth, 6'4". So there's a 10-inch disparity between the two, which is why it looked like she had a little mini me on the beach court, as it were. So there you go. There's your squirrel moment change. As I just was enamored by just how much bigger the one was than the other. Like normally there's a size disparity, but I was like, dang. She's huge. And the other one looks so tiny. I'm always in awe of stuff like that. I tell you who's not in awe of change. Every coach in college basketball not currently in the Big East. Why would you say that, Danny? The ACC is super strong, and the Big 12 is becoming a basketball conference, and the SEC has never been stronger, and blah, blah. The Big East does not have football to worry about. Which means they aren't spending on football, which means all of their money goes to basketball. And while there is currently a cap emerging in college football, there isn't one in college basketball.
Nope.
So if you're a Big East team, you could, I don't know, be like UConn and say, we now rule college basketball. Because we don't have a salary cap. We don't have any rules or restraints that are placed upon us. And we can use all of our money, which, let's be honest, that's what they're using it for already because UConn doesn't really care about football. I'm still shocked that they have a football program.
Right?
They just don't care. They're not going to participate at the highest of levels.
Yeah.
Them and Xavier and Georgetown and St. Joe's, they can all go out there and not care about football and spend every penny they generate on basketball. And they could have the most uneven playing field in all of college sports. You could see a million SMUs basically running around where they just go, yeah, well, some schools, they have to worry about the $20 plus $1 million a year that they're going to put into their football programs. While meanwhile, we don't have to worry about a penny of that.
Yeah.
And instead, we can put $10, $12, $15 million to basketball, which is a smaller overall investment, but it still works out better for us because we're a basketball school anyways. And now, if you aren't aware in the disparities in NIL as it pertains between football and basketball, yes, football has more overall money. Basketball has more higher earners in that because basketball rosters are 15 people, and one basketball player can make significantly more impact, it is not unusual for a $1.5 or $2 million NIL deal to go to a basketball player. Now, once we get down the road of all of this money being made public because government oversight or however it gets done, you're gonna go, oh, what? But if you're wondering how BYU all of a sudden just got two of the higher level prospects in the country, or how Rutgers all of a sudden got two of the top 5 prospects in the country, it's NIL. Ace Bailey and Dylan Edwards aren't going to Rutgers because of the long historic basketball tradition at Rutgers. They're going there to one, to play together, but two, because of the NIL. It's the same reason why Modest Buzelis and Ron Holland and Scoot Henderson went to the G League Ignite, because the path that existed previously, it meant go to the Ignite to get the money. It was now you're going to see this. Now that college football has been wrangled, what happens in college basketball? Not nearly as many people care about college basketball in the manner and shape that it does around college football. So you're not going to have the political movers and shakers that are shaking their fists. What you might have are some either political or financial affluent folks in the SEC rattle enough sabers, same thing in the Big 12, to go, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to talk to our folks in D.C. We can't have the Big East running roughshod. Problem is, those Big East teams got a lot of power down in D.C. as well. They have teams in the region.
Yeah.
And you might have those D.C. folks who just kind of go, I know what you're talking about.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Looks fine to me. Steve Buscemi looking in opposite directions, But nobody really knows which way it's going to go. Nate Oates, head coach at Alabama, is actually on record. He says that's a problem as a reference to the Big East. As long as it's equitable across all the high major schools, you're fine. But if one's got $22 million and one's got $5 million, that's a problem. We're not going to be able to compete. They haven't thought everything through. Well, no. They haven't thought everything through in college football. So you're not going to see it trail in basketball yet. This is Todd Golden, head coach at Florida. You have all these great basketball schools, and they have no football, and they have to take care of. So, yeah, definitely, we're worried about that. This is not anonymous SEC coach. This is 2 SEC coaches already on record before we even get to the season talking about how this is a problem. That lets you know how afraid they are.
Yeah.
This isn't, they were not permitted to speak because of the confidentiality of the deal. No, this is 2 SEC coaches reaching out to the Athletic and going, hey, we need this out there. This ain't fair. This is a problem, because they know that although they have more money than God, that right now there is an institutional crutch that the Big East can take advantage of, in that they're foregoing football. And it's also interesting when you think about the Big 12 and how they position themselves. Big 12 has positioned themselves as a basketball conference.
Yeah.
Does it look like they have all the leverage in the world right now? Or does it look like the Big East does?
Right.
The big worry, this is from The Athletic, this is the line here. The big worry inside college athletics is how to suddenly add 20 to 23 million in expenses and figure out how to balance a checkbook. At the high major levels, particularly in the leagues like SEC and Big Ten, finding the money to get to that max payout is not going to be an issue. But athletic departments will need to make key budgeting decisions, and in many cases, a good chunk of the new pay-for-play budget will have to come through fundraising. One impact could be an end to the facilities arms race, which we've talked about here.
Yeah.
Because in the past, boosters couldn't give money to players. So what they would do is you'd build a gym or a weight room or a training facility or a practice field that was better than what exists in the NBA and NFL. I'm not kidding when I say that there are multiple colleges across this country whose training facilities in college on both basketball and football levels are better than almost every NFL and NBA facility by orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
Look, I am in the locker room every night for the Trailblazers home games.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the most incredible locker room I've ever seen.
Right.
It's entirely fine.
Yeah.
But there's no monitors in the lockers. There's no, private sound systems. What they have is a safe, big space, and everything that they need as far as their jerseys and undergarments and socks and underwear and lotions and shampoos and sprays and towels. But it's not, their chairs are nice. They're not custom made for each player.
Right.
There's locker rooms that they take your measurements. They get you custom chairs.
Man.
You've got full entertainment systems, PS5s, Xboxes.
Yeah.
Built-in cable or streaming. Like every bell, was it Arizona last year? They've got the massage chairs.
Oh yeah.
At every locker.
Wow.
Like full on, like crazy massage chairs. So like there's this arms race and has been for years. Go down if you have the opportunity to go take a tour of the Ducks facilities. Ducks facilities are top in class.
Yeah.
Phil has spared no expense. It's incredible. Now they have the ugliest court in basketball history, but the rest of their facilities, ladies and gentlemen, holy crap.
Yeah. I believe they have at least tweaked the court for this year.
Yeah, thank God. Look, duck bias aside, that thing was heinous.
Yeah, it's tough to watch.
It was bad. Yeah. It was physically hard to watch.
On the eyes.
Yeah. But their facilities are world class. LSU, Florida, Alabama, Georgia. You see these locker rooms and you're just going, holy crap. They're meccas to football god. They are literal temples to all of the football players that came before them.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on the basketball side. Except for, and again, basketball locker room, 15 people.
Yeah.
Not 100.
Right.
So it gets spiced up a little bit.
Yes.
So the next time you see an NBA or a college basketball player completely iced out and driving a Hellcat and also getting $1.5 million on top of everything else, you start to understand the landscapes that we're playing on. So it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening when all of this football stuff gets settled. Does the basketball stuff take a couple years?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a driving force behind it to really wrangle it? Because right now, this is the first flare that's been shot up about this publicly. I've heard about it behind closed doors for the last couple of years, but in college football, how long have we heard about this for, Jeff? A decade?
Right.
That momentum just isn't there on the college basketball side yet. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how do they do it alongside college football, or does it take a couple years and all of a sudden the Big East takes a swath out of college basketball and says this is ours now and get momentum started and they become the SEC.
Man,
because that's really what happened is the SEC said we're just not going to play by anybody else's rules, and we don't care.
Yeah,
and we're going to be good about it. And we're not going to get caught. Well, the Big East, if this continues, or if this is allowed to operate in this manner, they can go out and do it legally, and they can get so far out ahead of everyone else that it would take a literal decade to catch back up. Or you say, well, they'll make the money even, and they can figure it out down the stretch. I don't know if that's true, because they might have so much momentum going in their favor that it is what it is. So, all right, I've had volleyball on in here apparently the whole morning. It's only fitting that we find a way to talk some volleyball. Chase Budinger has made one of the coolest changes in all of sports. Could we see perhaps another international basketball player make a change in sports? Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. One of the big storylines in the Paris Olympics for Team USA is the transition of Chase Budinger from professional basketball player to professional volleyball player. It's a big story because people aren't aware that Chase Budinger was the best player in volleyball in the country coming out of high school. The 6'7" Budinger who played for the Minnesota Timberwolves was a 2006 McDonald's All-American Game co-MVP with Kevin Durant, which I went back and looked at the stats in that game. Not I don't mean like the actual scoring stats. I wanted to see what size these guys were listed at. Hilariously, Kevin Durant was listed at 6'11", 240. You could put two Kevin Durants together and you're barely getting 240 pounds. That he was 240 pounds in high school is hilarious. He's maybe 190. But I digress. Chase Budinger is one of the best athletes on the planet. He is a 6'7" freak with a 40-plus inch vertical. He was the volleyball national player of the year coming out of high school. So let's refresh. McDonald's All-American basketball player that was co-MVP with Kevin Durant and the volleyball national player of the year. This should not come as a surprise, like, oh, he made the transition to volleyball. No, he was one of the best volleyball players on the planet 20 years ago.
Just a little bit of athletic ability in that one, huh?
Yeah, it's like, everybody's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he transitioned to volleyball. Like, the way it's being told is just like, people are forgetting that, no, he was the best volleyball player in the country. Yes, turns out the guy at 6'7" with insane hops and otherworldly hand-eye coordination, really good at volleyball. I don't want to downplay like the significance of this because it is insane that he's playing at an Olympic level while playing at an NBA level in basketball. But the idea that he made this like late career transition, no, this is like going to your fallback school. Like, it was always there, folks. He didn't learn a new sport. He was very, very, very good at it. The flip side of this, and I think this is a conversation that comes up quite often, is what professional athlete could transition to what sport and how would they do it and everything that kind of goes along with that. The one for me is always interesting of like what NBA player could do this or one NFL player could do this, but there's always one professional athlete that has an irrational level of self-confidence, and that's what we get when you give the microphone to the Minnesota Timberwolves' Anthony Edwards. Jeff Rust.
And what, ping pong? I got some people talking about they gonna beat me in ping pong 21-0. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not having it. 11-0. I'm scoring 1 point. 1 point. I'm scoring. What? Okay. How? When we gonna do that? Whenever.
That was Ant Edwards, and the some people he was talking about is Team USA's women's table tennis team. That's the some people that he's talking to there.
He's not scoring a point.
Not a single one. Not one. Not a single point. Not a point at all. He can hit that ball as hard as he wants against that table. It does not matter. My old football coach, Craig Schimmel. Shout out Shim. He's coaching down at Canby with Jimmy Joyce. Ping pong master. We'd have ping pong week every year, every semester in gym class with him. And he loved that week. He'd bring out his own paddle. And he was always like, if you think you can beat me. And he would proceed to whoop everyone's ass.
Yeah.
I mean, annihilate them in a fashion that was just hilarious every single time. And he's not an Olympic ping pong player. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched these people play ping pong. There's like, I was jokingly watching with my wife.
I was watching some of it yesterday.
I would grab like household objects and tee it up the same way ping pong players do. Have you noticed everyone has like their own little way that they like?
Yes.
They present
They
the
cradle
ball.
that ball and yeah.
I need that clean.
I'm not sure what's clean.
Yeah.
I'll take a look.
But they do. They have like their own unique way that they present it and then like hide it. It's like a magician.
Yeah.
And then they set it up and they do all these weird little things to it. Like
Mind the Stepchildren.
Exactly. Perfect. But it is very interesting. And then you watch them do the way they put spin on it and the playing it short, playing it long, playing angles. And like, there's opportunities where there's not a chance in hell that you think this person is going to get to this ball. Not only they get to it, they put it on the furthest corner of the table with such obscene spin that it goes the other way. And you're like, how did you manage to do that with this little tiny plastic ball and like a rubber mat on your ping pong paddle?
Right?
Yes, it's ping pong.
Yeah.
It's not
Table tennis. Whatevs.
So
It's amazing to me though how down low to the table, close to the table, most of them are serving from. It's like it seems like they drop that ball, I don't know, an inch maybe.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
It's like they throw it up in the air or they like let go of it on the way down.
It's weird.
And then blink. And it's I had a buddy who in the Air Force who did like Olympic qualifiers. I want to say it's like 2005, 2006, that he was that good at it. And I played racquetball with him. I refused to play ping pong with him, but it was the same thing. Just embarrassed the living hell out of me.
Right.
I ran into the wall a dozen times trying to play off the angles that he was playing. Like they're supercomputers in their brain with the hand-eye coordination stuff. And you're just like, I don't get this. But I love the irrational confidence of some professional athletes with other sports, but there's also like the very real confidence of guys like Chase Budinger who are so otherworldly gifted at athletes that yes, they can participate in a sport in basketball where you're one of the top 500 players on the planet, but also in volleyball where you're one of the top 50 players on the planet.
It's a bit crazy.
Again, different pools of players, but still. Look, outside of the U.S., volleyball, go to China, go to Russia. Russia, they're out there paying women $200,000 a year to play volleyball. They love their volleyball.
Yeah.
And you're talking about two of the biggest countries in the world. So the player pool is not as small as you think it is. All right, coming up next, Dusty Harrow will join us live from Eugene, hopping on from Ducks Media Day and what we learned or didn't learn about the Ducks heading into this season. Coming up here next. But first, here's the Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by 808 Hawaiian Restaurant. Your favorite spot for island grinds now has 3 locations: Woodstock, Burnside, new in Beaverton, and always online at ate-oh-ate.com. First on the Fan. The Major League Baseball trade deadline is approaching tomorrow afternoon. This morning, the Mariners sent first baseman Ty France to the Reds in exchange for minor league catcher Andrew Salcido. Those same Mariners, fresh off a 3-game sweep of the White Sox in Chicago, now they hit Boston for 3 with the Red Sox. 4:10 first pitch on Root Sports. Logan Gilbert opposite Nick Pivetta. Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel and wide receiver Tez Johnson have been named to the Maxwell Award watch list given to the best player in college football. Over in the NFL, the Lions and left tackle Taylor Decker, who is Detroit's longest tenured player, have agreed to a 3-year, $60 million extension with $31.83 million guaranteed. Over across the pond in Paris, the U.S. women's basketball team started their quest for their 8th straight gold medal earlier this afternoon against Japan. 102-76 is your final score. Asia Wilson leading the way with 24 points, 22 for Brianna Stewart, and then 11 apiece for Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, and Brittany Griner. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
We now go live to down in Eugene, where Dusty Hera is wrapping up Ducks Media Day and wrapping up, all of the medias for all of the days, hopefully for the Big Ten, for the foreseeable future. Dusty, how did Ducks Media Day treat you?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I still wish I was back there with you guys on a Metal Monday. I thought we were going a little bit harder metal with a Dusty List Metal Monday, so I'm glad I got Linkin Park on the way in. But Ducks Media Day was great down here. It was good to kind of finally see some of the new names and faces of the Oregon program front and center, and now a little bit more comfortable. You know, that's one of the awkward parts is, like, you got the transfer portal, and so guys like Jabbar Muhammad and Kobe Savage, who we didn't really get to hear too much from, now they're more comfortable down here, and they are finding their rhythm in the locker room with teammates and stuff like that, and you can tell there's just a new level of comfort with those guys, and so it's good to kind of connect and hear from them for the first time really ever.
What are our major storylines that are, I guess, being echoed through Ducks Media Day today?
Yeah, I mean, first is Lanning is officially in camp mode. It was the Yuck It Up Pat McAfee show, Coach Lanning. He is now in camp mode. You could tell he's ready to get this thing going. But I think a lot of that has to do with now that it's time to get things going. There's real expectations here. And it's something that I don't think any of these players or coaches are shying away from, is the fact that the expectations that have been heaped upon this team for 2024 by the media and the people who cover college football, they're expected to be a top 4 team. They're expected to enter the Big Ten and compete for a Big Ten title. And it's no longer, hey, we're going to get there, and we got to cross these T's and dot these I's. It's go time, and you can kind of feel that and sense that from the players and the coaches that it's business-like moving forward into 2024.
Lanning hopped on with Joel Klatt on Klatt's podcast, and we played a little bit of audio from that earlier. And he essentially said that one of their not necessarily their challenges, but one of the things they have to kind of overcome is recruiting locally is difficult because of Oregon and Washington not being necessarily the hotbeds. And he essentially said it in a way that bringing people from all over the country and having them kind of go through the same shared experiences, it almost sounded like he was saying trauma bonding in the same sense that the military kind of does with boot camps. Do you think that kind of has a little bit of bearing on how this group is kind of coming together?
No, I do, because if you look down the line and you look at guys that are going to be playing significant snaps from this Oregon Ducks roster this year, I mean, there aren't a lot of local guys. And I mean, you got Bryce Betcher on the defensive side of the ball, who is South Eugene native and two-sport athlete. And I got a chance to talk with him today, and he's an outstanding young man. Like, he blew me away. It was the first time I'd gotten a chance to talk to Bryce, and he was a great kid. But then you also had Josh Connerly on the offensive side of the ball, and Charlie Pickard, who are Connerly from Washington and Pickard from Eugene. There aren't a lot of guys that are going to be playing a big role on this team that are local. And you look at where everybody else is from, you go Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Ohio, Illinois. Marcus Harper, talked to him today he's from Chicago. You do come from all over the place. And every single guy said, it was hard to get used to the rain. It's a different pace of life. There is a lot to that, in that, it's a melting pot, and everybody gets pulling in the same direction because, one, there's that familiarity of being at home, and, people that you grew up with and people you were around since the day you were born, they're thousands of miles away for a lot of these guys in a lot of cases. I think there is a big element to that where, it's almost the people that you're around the most are the ones that you're going to be connected to, because you don't have any relationships with anybody else. You don't have any shared experiences really with anybody else that's on this campus, because the rest of the student body is from Oregon and California, mostly. Mm-hmm. So there is not a whole lot of common ground, except for with the guys that came here for one reason and one reason only, to play football at the University of Oregon.
this time of year, there's always one or two guys that folks didn't expect to necessarily pop, whether it be through workouts, putting on weight, or showing up a step faster, or looking a little crisper, or a better understanding of the playbook. Who are the guys that are the early camp nominees for the guys to watch over the next couple weeks?
Boy, I think that the one thing that kind of kept popping out to me was chemistry in the secondary is big, and there's a lot of guys that are coming back, but a lot of new faces. Bring in guys like, Jabbar Muhammad from UW and Kobe Savage from Kansas State, and they come in with a level of hype around them. But I think that one thing that really stuck out to me was, guys saying like Tysheem Johnson. He's a guy that he played a big role, especially in that Utah game last year. But you sit there and you keep hearing names pop up again and again and again. I think he's one name to watch. I think Kenyon Sadiq is also another one, the tight end from Idaho, who was a freshman last year. He is an absolute load, and he's a unit. But I think what's interesting about this year and this kind of Oregon roster is that we have heard so much and seen so much about this roster because of, the attention that they have been getting on the national level, that I'm not sure how many guys are going to sneak up on people, because every name that I've said are guys that we've heard about and we've followed throughout the fall camp. But I would say if you're looking for guys that are going to play a huge role on this team this year, I think Kenyon Sadiq is a guy whose role will expand as the season goes on, because Terrence Ferguson is an outstanding tight end, Patrick Herbert as well. But the athleticism that Sadiq has, they can move him inside, outside. He can block, he can run, and he is a young buck. So I think that would be the name that I would be watching for.
One of the things when I look at this Oregon team, and you and I talked about this before you went down there this weekend, is Dan Lanning has done something to this program to where it feels like the expectations are so real that anything short of a college football playoff berth is a disappointment. Is that the line? Do you think that they'll never say it publicly, but do you think that is the line for the program?
Yeah, I do. I think that internally that is what they are thinking, and how they feel about this team is not just getting to the college football playoff, but winning games in the college football playoff. I think that is the goal. I mean, we got a 12-team playoff this year. You're in the Big Ten. You got a seat at the big boys table, and you have got a roster that is ready to go. And obviously, you're right. They're not going to come out and say, that's our expectation of this year. They're going to give you the cliche week by week, we're just focused on Idaho, yada, yada, yada. But I do believe that if you're looking at where that bar is for this team, it is the college football playoff, and it's a high seed in the college football playoff. It's a first round bye, or you're one of the top seed coasting in that opening round of the college football playoff. And I don't think they're going to duck or shy away from that, because that's what they've recruited guys on, is that's what you come here to do. And that's what the goal is when you come to Oregon. And, but they're not going to ever say that publicly to anybody, but we all know that's what they've used in recruiting.
With the Olympics going on right now, we've already seen some crossover where Chase Budinger has gone from the NBA to beach volleyball. I don't know if you've seen the video of Ant Edwards telling the women's U.S. table tennis team that he could get points off them. Who at camp right now
he
is
could not, by the way.
Not a single point. Not a single point.
No.
Is it two-part question for you. Who at camp is the one person who thinks that they could beat another Olympian in their sport? And who is the most likely person to be able to compete in the Olympics in an event, and what event would it be?
Oh, boy. That's a loaded question there. I think the guy who probably thinks that he could compete in the Olympics, and I'd probably think at a variety of sports, Trayshawn Holden, the wide receiver, he is a very confident young man. And he is very athletic, and he's got a huge frame on him too. And I think he's probably the one that thinks that he could do it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that a guy that I think could actually compete in the Olympics is, the one that I would go with is probably like Josh Connerly in like the shot put or something. I mean, you're just when you're that big, long, and you are strong like that. I bet you. Yeah, you could make him into a great shot putter. I think like 330 pounds at 6'4" or 5" or whatever he is, spinning around and launching a metal ball. I think he'd be really good at that. The other one I would go with is Bryce Betcher is he's a two-sport athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to start at linebacker at Oregon, and he was a Gold Glove winner in baseball and, drafted by the Astros. So he's just a really good athlete. So I don't know what he would do.
That's your Pat Connaughton Memorial Award right there.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Just such a good athlete. Like you'll find something.
Yeah, he'll do something. I think that like he's from Eugene, so it's like mountain biking. He's probably really good at. I don't know.
Some hacky sack.
Yeah, the Olympic hacky sack is going to make the return, and we'll have breakdancing and hacky sack, and Eugene will just be thrilled.
Is slacklining a Olympic sport yet? How far off are we from that?
Last week we had the Ducks on for Media Day, and we had the talk of putting on weight. Who is the guy that is talked about right now as far as changing their body from last year to this year?
Gosh, that's a great question. They they've been competing in the weight, like competition in the weight room, I guess, is like the biggest thing. Like they will. I was talking to Kobe Savage about this, and he said, like, you will literally be looking eye to eye with somebody holding a trap bar, and the first one to drop it, like at the end of their weight training session, the first one to drop it loses, and you're placed into groups. So like you can't lose. So everybody looks jacked. They've been getting after it in the weight room, but it's from a changing your body standpoint. I may go, Jordan Birch maybe.
Oh.
Jordan Birch looks long and like his arms are the size of tree trunks, but he's kind of leaned out in some other places too. He looks good, man. He's huge.
That's a thick boy.
Yeah, he's a thick boy.
When the thick boys start getting things under control, it looks a little more terrifying. All right, man, we're gonna let you go on that. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Yes, I will be in tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll get more of the news, notes, and stories from all over Duck Camp tomorrow when you get back to the building. Thanks for taking some time, and safe travels, man.
Love you guys. Bye.
Get better. That's Dusty here down at Ducks Media Day. Remember, Dusty is the Ducks sideline reporter, and he will have you covered all season long for all of your Ducks coverage, as we will here on 1080 The Fan. After this, we will reset and get ready to hand you off to the primetime crew. Come up here next on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. So I just want to scroll across the old basketball timeline. If I told you Kevin Durant was first in points per game, field goals made, three-pointers made, and free throws made all time for Team USA, would you believe it?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's where he ranks in the pantheon of USA basketball players. He might actually be the greatest male basketball player the country has ever had. It's timing has a lot to do with it, but he's been their most productive scorer. This should not come as a surprise. For everybody out there who's like, Michael Jordan's the best scorer of all time, you can make the argument that Michael Jordan is the best player of all time. I'm not going to argue with you. I have LeBron, but I think you can make an argument either way. I don't care. There is no argument about who the best scorer is in NBA history. It's Kevin Durant, then everyone else could figure it out. It was like, well, LeBron scored more, Kareem scored more. Longevity plays a big part in this. Kevin Durant is basically averaged 28 a game on 50, 40, 90 shooting for his entire career.
It's not bad.
You can't argue. You can argue till you're blue in the face. I don't care. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
The man, the least efficient, air quotes, shot in basketball is mid-range pull-up. The guy shoots 55% for his career on it. Like this. What do you do with that?
He's all right.
What do you do with that? Oh, by the way, again, he's a 39.7% career three-point shooter, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And what's
So
funny
basically
is
40.
Yes, what's funny is that his free throw percentage is what keeps him out. It's like 88.9.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how dare he be a percent under, 90% all time from the free throw line.
Come on, man. Get in the gym.
Right? And again, in 2006, the All-American game, he was listed at 6'11", 240. No. No. He could be on an airplane and take a medical evacuated poop. And there's no thing on this planet that could make me sick enough to convince me that he's 240 pounds. Ever. Let alone in 2006, the year before, or the summer before he went to Texas.
Yeah.
Where everybody's like, oh, dear Christ, this man is going to break if he takes another step.
Yeah. Maybe 210. Maybe.
I think Chet is 205 or 210, and they're the same size.
Yeah.
240?
Nah.
Come on, dog. Come on, dog. What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
I am going to go home and I'm going to spend an inordinate amount of time watching Weird Olympics because as the show has progressed, my hips have gotten tighter after doing the old Stairmaster for far too long today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be an Olympic couch sitter.
There you go.
Let me tell you, I'm going to gold medal in that sucker tonight. We have now reached the official dog days for the next week. I would say then we get into.
Well, I think really once the Olympics wrap up.
I was just saying it's another in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then it gets difficult in here, and maybe I'll take a day off. Maybe not. I'll take a little Izache 3-day escapade and not get COVID.
Well, I won't be here Monday and Tuesday next week.
Where are you going?
Anywhere, somewhere.
Manzanita.
It's my birthday next
that's
week.
Right.
Yeah.
55?
Gotta hate you.
I'm getting all my shots in now because I'm the only 30-year-old currently on this roster.
I'll be 48.
I would have thought older.
I know, the gray in my beard betrays me. You jerk.
I'm just going to get as many shots in as I can. This
bless
is how this
America.
goes. It's not like the other guy walking in behind you right now is half your age.
I know, right? I am literally old enough to be his dad.
Yeah.
And have it not be a stretch.
It would be pretty funny if you were Ortner's dad, simply because of the just.
I wonder, how old is your dad, Will?
52, 53.
Okay,
Okay,
he's
yeah,
like
you
52,
could
53.
legitimately be his father.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because Will's 26.
oh God, so you had been 22, which it's not.
Not like I said, that's not a stretch.
Whew.
Yeah, right?
Wow, we are old.
Yeah.
How old's Dirt?
Is he late 30s now too? I'm not sure.
I think that's the case. I think we're looking at Dirt's the youngest, right? Of all the hosts.
I think so.
Okay. I'm smack dab in the middle. I think that's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Gotcha.
But I'll be 40 in a couple months, and
Yeah.
boy, am I dreading that. My wife is not letting me off that hook.
Oh, 40 wasn't bad.
I've joked for 20 years. If I make it to 40, it will be a success because I know I'm lighthearted about the gallows humor and stuff. Like, there's a half dozen times in my life where I should have died.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately should have died. Not like, I almost died. Like, nope, should definitely be dead. Wrecking a car at 100+ miles an hour and ending up upside down in a tree and walking out without a scratch.
Were you the inspiration for the Final Destination movies?
Look, did you see what happened? One of the logging trucks went through, a log fell off and went through a freaking car, just like the movie, man.
Yep.
But it went in between.
Oof.
You imagine being in that car?
Jeez.
Hut!
Man. Well, that'd be one where they'd have to turn around and make an emergency landing
Emergency
because
landing.
of the biohazard.
Burn that car. Look, man, I don't want it anymore. The bad juju. The first thing I thought was,
It's not bad juju. That's bad doo-doo.
well, right? The person driving that car, there's a 0% chance they were under 50 years old, because if they were,